Hey YouTube, today we're going to be talking about a subject of very expensive custom firearms versus common firearms, and are they worth the extra money that you pay? And before we get started, I'm going to let you know that every one of these guns here have been safety checked before I turned on this camera, and as I pick them up during the video, I will show you that they're not loaded. So the topic for today is custom firearms and the extreme cost that you have to pay to own one of these things, and is it worth it? So the examples that I have here in front is we have two very expensive custom firearms here on the left, and we have two more common to the everyday person price firearms here on the right. And what we have a custom Wilson Combat 1911. We have a Korth Mongoose 357 Magnum revolver. On the right here, we have a Colt 1911, and we have a Smith & Wesson 686 357 Magnum revolver. Now, let's get into these a little bit. We're going to start with the common ones that all of us common people can probably muster up and afford. This is a Colt 1911. This is a common gun that everybody has. Now, you don't have to pick a Colt. Colt can sometimes be a little bit more expensive, but this is what I would consider a plain Jane everyday person's 1911. If you wanted a 1911, the reason you're going to buy a 1911 is its extreme accuracy and the trigger on it. The trigger is going to be probably the best trigger that you've ever felt on any handgun in your life, and that's why usually people buy these things. Now, this design's been around for 100 years, and this is one that's virtually unchanged from close to 100 years ago. Now, there's several different brands now that make these things, and they're about as common as Sunday morning 1911s are. The original ones came out. Colt is the one that made the very first ones, and they held a patent on it for many years, and when that patent ran out, they're kind of like AR-15s. Everybody makes them. Now, what is the advantages to a 1911? Well, the first advantage is going to be the trigger, folks. They don't make bad 1911 triggers, so I'm going to show you this is going to be better than any striker fired gun that you can come up with. If you pull the trigger, there's virtually no take up to it whatsoever, and I'm going to show you what a reset on a 1911 looks like, and it's right here and pulls. This common one right here is probably going to be around a 5-pound pull, maybe 4.5 pounds, somewhere like that. I don't have a gauge right here on me, but what you get when you buy this gun is you get regular GI style serrations on it. You don't get any fancy texturing or anything like that. You just get a regular sight picture. Now, keep in mind, there's other brands that are out there that come with a little bit better sights. They have different kinds of serrations. You can get them with the texturing on the front for the recoil. There's just a whole bunch of different things in the 1911 rabbit hole you can go down. But I decided to use this one for this video purposes because I think this is a gun that pretty much any person that's deep in the firearms can afford. There's a lot of them on the same price level as a Colt. Now, this one's a little bit older one, and this is going to be more of a collectible, but this gun can be bought in today's times for in the zone of $1,000 or less. You can get a regular classic Colt 1911, and you can get Springfield 1911s, you can get Kimbers, all the little common types, they're all going to be $1,000 or less. You can get a decent 1911. You can get them much cheaper than that, but to get a decent, mid-tier 1911, it's going to be around $1,000. Give or take, and I wanted to use this one as an example. So this is what you're going to be looking at if you want to get into the 1911 game. You can get something like this or something very similar. You can get it in stainless, blued, whatever your choice is. But common 1911, very cool gun. This one just happens to be a Series 70 Colt from, this was actually from the 1970s. Now, your common revolver that I have here to use as an example, I'm going to use a Smith & Wesson 686. Very common gun. They made about a bazillion of them, and very, very easy to obtain. They're not too terribly expensive. Once again, you're looking at under $1,000 to buy a very high quality 357 Magnum revolver. And this one's had a little bit of work done on it, so the action is pretty smooth. But if you wanted to get into a revolver, a Smith & Wesson is, you get a lot of gun for not as much money as you would spend on other ones, like for instance Colts or something like that. You know, you're going to pay for that Colt name, but a Smith & Wesson, you get a lot of value for what you get into it. Now this is an older one. You don't have to choose an older one. This is more of a collectible, I guess you could say, more vintage one. But a Smith & Wesson 357 Magnum is a very good option. You know, they've got target sights on them. They got really nice target grips, and the action on Smith & Wessons are usually pretty smooth. So these are your two common guns that I'm going to use for this comparison. Now, when you move into the higher end stuff, now this stuff here, folks, I understand it's going to be out of the price range of most people. And when I say it's out of the price range, I'm not saying that nobody can afford this. A lot of people is going to have a hard time spending the kind of money that these two here on the left are for a single firearm, unless you're very deep into it and you're very passionate about this hobby. So the first one we'll look at, this is a Wilson Combat Tactical Elite Professional, they call it. This one has all the bells and whistles on it. Now, what do you get when you get a custom 1911? Well, let's take a couple looks at this thing. You get some stuff like, you get this AMI safety that's on the left and the right. You get this cool looking fluted barrel here, and when you open it up, you know, the barrel's fluted all the way through. You get a full length guide rod. You get cool stuff like the barrel being cut off flush and crown. You get these cool looking carry cuts in the side of it. You get some cool looking texturing. You get a magwell on the bottom of it, a one piece magwell. Everything's all countersunk. If you look, this slide stop's countersunk, and just a really, really cool piece. You know, the ejection port's lowered down a little bit. You get serrations on the top and checkering on the back of the slide. A lot better sights on them. But like I said, you can pick a different brand and get better sights than the one that I just showed you. But this is what a custom gun looks like. Now, what you got that you don't normally see is the tolerances between this thing. This thing is put together so tight. And if you look real close here, you can see how tight the fit is. And there is absolutely no wobble whatsoever between the slide and the frame. Very tight put together gun. Put together by precision gunsmiths that are at the top of their game, that really know what they're doing, folks. And this gun is super, super accurate. Super accurate. But we'll get into what accuracy is here in a minute. So let's get into this revolver here, and we'll show you that this one's not loaded also. So this is a Korth Mongoose 357 Magnum. This is made by Korth out of Germany, and it is imported by Nighthawk Customs right here on the side. Nighthawk Custom is known for making 1911s, very similar to this Wilson Combat that I just showed you. So they import them. And when you look at this gun here, this is also handmade, just like the Wilson Combat I just showed you. And if you look at some of the quality here, it's got a crown barrel on it. Just the machine work on it is just so fine. If you look at like the forcing cone on the inside here, just a fine fit machine that you have here, and the action is just super smooth on it. It's just a really well made firearm, folks, and it's made by one person that sits at a gunsmith bench, and they build this thing piece by piece, one at a time. Now, are these guns more accurate than these guns over here? They absolutely are, folks. If you sit these things and put them in a bench rest, and you put test targets on them, and you use the same kind of ammunition, these things are going to outshoot these two all day long. But here's what I got to ask you. Does anybody watching this video have a hand that's as steady as a bench rest? People shoot all different kind of various kinds of ammunition. They go to ranges and they shoot offhand, and not everybody is a marksman. when they get to the range. I know I'm not. I'm not a marksman. So is it worth the extra money? If you want to buy these two guns and think that you're going to tighten your groups up or shoot better than you would with these two guns, folks, it's not going to happen. It's just never going to happen. Now, if you're going to buy these two guns here and think that the mechanisms work smoother or they're better put together, they are better put together, but you can do improvements on stuff like this action on this Smith & Wesson is just absolutely unbelievable. A gunsmith's worked on it. I don't know what it costs to do that, to make it like that. I cannot quite remember, so I'm not gonna lie to you folks ever. But this action is just as smooth as this one here. The action works just as smooth on it. So things can be done a lot more economical to make this gun just as good as this one. Same with the 1911. You can take a regular price 1911. Now this one hasn't had anything done to it. You can smooth it up. This one works pretty smooth anyway, and there's not much improvement you can do to a trigger of a 1911. You can get a little bit lighter and stuff like that, but there's not much improvement to be done. So if you think you're going to shoot better with them, it's probably not going to happen, folks. Now, the reason people buy things like this is pride of ownership. They want to say that they own the best. It's kind of like owning a Rolex watch versus, like a Movado or a Tag Heuer or a Seiko even. They're all going to work about the same. You're not going to tell the difference in the time and date. But when you start looking into the craftsmanship of how a Rolex watch is made, or a Patek Philippe, or an Omega, or something like that, one of the higher end watches, there's a lot of labor goes into it, because a lot of that stuff is hand fit by a watchmaker that makes a high rate of pay. Well, that has to be passed on to the consumer. Same goes with these guns here. They don't put out as many of these as they do these. These two right here on the right are run through an assembly line, basically, folks. It's just a mass-produced weapon, and they're going to make as many of them as they can sell because they're affordable, and they're going to sell a lot of them. I mean, these Smith & Wessons or these regular 1911s, they sell thousands and thousands and thousands of them every single year. They don't even make thousands of these every single year, folks, because it takes so long to do it. I know with Wilson Combat, if you order a gun from them, you're looking at about a year before you're going to get your gun from them. You fill out your build sheet, you pay the money, you pay the deposit down, and you're looking at about a year before you get that gun show up at your local FFL. The Mongooses, there's not a lot of them around. I don't know what the ordering process is. I know you can buy them, from a stocking dealer or like on Gunbroker or something like that, which you can do the same with these. But if you want it your way, you're going to wait for a while for them to build, because they just don't throw these things together overnight. So what is it extra that you're getting? You're getting the craftsmanship of skilled people, and you're getting pride of ownership to own something that's at the top of its game. It's at the very top-notch stuff. With this stuff, there's absolutely nothing wrong with this stuff, and I'll be the first to tell you I love stuff like this. I love common guns that are good quality and do not give you any problems or anything. And I know a lot of people think of these two as like more top-end guns, and they are really. I mean, there's a lot cheaper options out there that will go. I just use these because I know the Smith & Wesson 686 is a very common 357, and a Colt 1911 I think of in today's time as a common person could go buy something if it costs under $1,000. This one probably isn't under $1,000 just because it's an older one, but I used it as an example because it's a regular stripped down, plain Jane, run-of-the-mill government model Colt that anybody can own. It's no different than a Springfield or a Kimber or any of those common brands. Now, do I think it's worth it to buy these? If you're in the financial position that you want to have the best and you want to have something that nobody else has at the range when you go, it's absolutely worth it. Do it. You won't regret it. I mean, just the way these things work, they work like well-oiled machines. But if you're one of these people, now if it's going to put you in financial hardship and you already have something like these two over here, you have a common handgun like a 357 or a 1911 like that, and you're going to have to put you in financial hardship to get it. There's no way I would tell you to do it. I'm never going to lie to you folks, and I'm going to tell you there's no way. It's just not worth it. You're not going to be able to shoot this gun better than this gun. 99.9% of the people watching this video right now, if they were to close their eyes and I handed them this one and this one, could not tell the difference. And 99.9% of the people watching this, if they took this gun to the range and this gun to the range, and I give you two separate targets, I say I'll give you two cylinders, 12 shots each to go in that one and that one, I promise you they're not going to do any worse with this one than they would this one. And this one, you could probably buy 4 or 5 of these for what you could buy this, and the same goes for this. You could probably buy at least 4 of these for what you could buy one of these for. So you make the decision, folks. I just wanted to show you what 2 very, very expensive, custom-made, hand-fit, hand-built firearms looks next to 2 production ones. And there's really not that much difference when it comes to performance. When it comes to quality and craftsmanship, there's going to be a big difference if you really start diving deep into what you're looking at. But anyway, folks, I have separate videos on all 4 of these, and if you have any questions about the firearms I used in today's video, feel free to ask. Thank you very much for watching my video today, and you folks have a great day.